But let's move on to our DM question of the week.
DM question of the week. It is, can you make a bad character? And the answer is yes.
Oh, that's your answer?
Yes, that is the answer.
Yeah, you can.
Very easily, actually.
But I want to specify what is not a bad character. And so I think a lot of people judge other people's... There's a way of thinking that can be unfortunate. So let's just quickly say what D&D is all about. I would say it's to adventure through a unique campaign / quest with the people around you. Period. That's what D&D is typically about. Obviously, you can make it what you want, but that's kind of what we're here to talk about. That form of D&D. And so what is not a bad character? Well, what is not a bad character is a character that could be better. Non-perfect characters are not bad. And so you can imagine a situation, and this happens, where people are like, oh, you're making a samurai subclass? I would go with Battle Master. That's a better character. Right?
Why?
And maybe it's better because of the mechanics and stats and stuff.
No!
But that's not a bad character. Being a samurai because it's not as good is not a bad character. So that's not all we're talking about. What I believe a bad character is one that impedes the fun and storytelling of those around you. You can make it whatever you want to make it, and it's a perfectly good character. But as long as it isn't drawing away from the fun, it's good. But some characters can do that. So I just thought of 3 to just kind of give examples. But there's
the most typical one, the Horny Bard. That one.
Yeah, you've mentioned that one.
That one. Oh,
well, so this is that alone is not bad in my opinion. That's not bad. That is part of a character. Like yes, you can have characters that are horny from what you say.
Well, like it just doesn't make sense. It's like you see this horrible, disgusting monster, and the guy's like, I want to sleep with it. It's like,
well, let me give my examples, and we'll apply them to yours. So. The first one, okay, maybe this one doesn't apply as well, but so the first one are selfish characters, those that only create negative encounters for others. So
kind of like the guy that says, "Oh, I found the money in the lair," and he doesn't share it, and then everyone gets mad at him.
Yeah, like he doesn't share it, or he's just like the dark character, and he's always like, "I'm not helping you," or like, "I don't like you."
I'm like the edgy dude. Or the lone wolf. That's a bad one. The lone wolf
can be rough. Okay, but we're actually still not at a bad character yet. So here's the next one. One-note characters. And so those are characters that are hyper-focused on one trait. So you mentioned the Horny Bard. You can have a Horny Bard, but if that is the only thing you do in that character, like apparently this character is just a cardboard cutout of a person because people are not like that. Like you can be horny and sing, but that doesn't mean you're constantly doing that, right? Like you get hungry sometimes, or you don't want to die all the time. So maybe you're not going to seduce Medusa, right?
Seduce Medusa. I mean,
that's like lyrical. We're talking about bards. All right, seduce Medusa. Like it kind of sounds the same. I don't know what.
That does sound
well, whatever. Anyway, one-note characters like. There is no inherently bad trait. If you want to be the loner, if you want to be the selfish, greedy one, you just can't use that always. Like, flesh your character out a little more.
I mean, I just feel like a balance of a character is perfect. So maybe, like, kind of like where you're talking about, like, the perfectionist character. Like, the character that walks in, and he's, like, the bird, and he has, like, yeah, you know, I got, like, the +3 to every stat. You know, he's freaking overpowered. You know, that's a boring character compared to like if you had a barbarian that had the intelligence of an ape. Like that would make it funny, and you know, like you have to get around challenges because stories are boring if the protagonist just literally wins at everything and doesn't have to work hard. Right?
Yeah, true.
Like if you don't have a flaw, that's a bad character. Personally.
Yeah.
You have to work to something. If you're just good at everything, it's boring.
Which is hard to do. But yeah, that's true. Okay, but here's the third thing. I think this is the ultimate mark of a bad character. and it's an uncompromising character. Those that won't ever act against a certain rule. So this might be someone that's like, I keep always picking on your character. I always hunt or something. And it's like the only thing I'm going... That's not your character, but... Or
kind of like, my friend is going to get hanged, but I like following the law too much. I'm not going to help him.
Right. Or like, I always run away. Like, I think there's a personality trait that's like, I always run... Like, it's like a criminal one or something. I always run when... It's when I'm going to lose
awful.
Or something. And so you may run a lot of times, but that doesn't mean you always... It's... Okay, so if the story is like, this is what should be done, and you're the person that ends up saying, well, that's not what my character would do.
Go die.
Okay,
Sorry.
Don't go die. But it's like...
Your character should go die. Sorry.
Or, I mean, but you should be true to your character, but uncompromising is the key. You do have to compromise your character sometimes, because other people have characters too, and in real life, it can be difficult. It would be difficult to have all these like intense, like you have your Horny Bard, you have your Giant Barbarian, you have your like criminal rogue. Like, these are all like very divergent personalities, right? So in real life, to keep them all in one party, which is kind of necessary for a campaign, would be hard to do. So you need to compromise on your character's personality. If you are uncompromisingly this giant barbarian and then uncompromisingly this like evil rogue, it will tear the party apart, and that's not fun for anyone. So you have to compromise and say, okay, maybe my rogue would pickpocket this dude right now, but this is not my time to shine. This is his time to shine. I'm gonna let him role play. I'm not gonna steal the thunder. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, that's a very good point. Or like how I think about it, like people that are like, my character would just let all of you die. That's just like,
Okay. That's...
I've had that happen. I've had that happen. Where like his character is like, yeah, you guys are peasants to me, so I don't care about you. And then I just sat there. I was just like, well, your character's getting like eaten alive, and you're just gonna be like the lone dude that just sits there and watches eaten alive.
That would be a tough character to play well. I think it's possible, it would require character development. You have to like slowly be like learning that you're not the center of the universe and that other people can matter, unless you're playing like a psychopath. But why would you be playing a psychopath? Or
like you have to rate, not like the rate. Well, yeah, kind of like let's say you have like a goblin in your group, and your paladin's like, I'm gonna kill our friend because he's a goblin. My character would do that. It's like, why? You're just, you're just being mean to that player.
But it's sometimes, but that can be okay. But it's when you're uncompromising about it. Like, you can't be one note. Like, if you don't like goblins, fine, but you can't make that color everything you do. Like, you need to be like, there's other parts of this character that matter. Like, I don't like goblins, but I also am just generally a compassionate person. So maybe I can learn to realize that this goblin isn't as bad as I thought, or something like that. Okay, so here's an advice from myself about just basically how you can avoid making a character like this. Most people don't make them. And I wanted to give an example from when I didn't do this. But basically just think about your other players when you make your character. It's very easy to be tunnel vision on what you want and what you want to play. But think about the other players when you're doing it. And so to make this more clear, I'll give an example of one of my characters that I've talked about before. Uth Sage Sworn. This was my illusion wizard.
Oh.
So he's a historically failed character of mine.
Literally was awful.
In terms of combat, when I created this character...
Well, wasn't this your first character?
No, this was not my first character.
What was your first character?
I think it was a rogue.
Ew.
His name was Kendo. I don't know. Anyway, that's besides the point. That is not necessary to talk about. Anyway, so Uth Sage Sworn was a illusionary wizard. He what the real mistake was is I wanted to make one that really relied on illusion, mainly in combat and all sorts of things. And what I ended up doing was basically giving him nearly entirely illusion spells. Even his cantrips were like illusionary based. And when I was making this, I was thinking about all these cool things I could do. Like, okay, I can trick people if it does come to combat, I can diffuse the combat early or like hide and get away because I can like be cloned or I can do all sorts of stuff, right? That's like all these cool things. And what I was not doing is thinking about my other players. And so what ended up happening is, although I am this illusionary wizard that's capable of like making a distraction, I can like become invisible practically by blending in. I can just trick people into thinking I'm like super rich and pay them to do things. I could do all sorts of stuff, but what I wasn't accounting for is my players like wanted to fight things. Like I can do all this fancy illusion to trick them, but my players are like, well, we want to fight, right? They didn't say this explicitly, but when I like am like, oh, I can do this, they're like, nah. Like, we kind of want to fight, right? Like, people want to fight.
The battle-hungry barbarian, you're like, guys, I can stop you. He just comes and, like, slaps you on the head, knocks you out, puts you in, like, a barrel, and goes fight. That's kind of
pretty much. And so what I didn't do was account for the fact that people want to fight things, which makes complete sense. Like, it's completely my fault. And so my character ended up being kind of useless because it's like my companions are engaging in combat, so I can't just sit there illusioned as a fern, right? Now I'm just not helping anything. You know what I mean? The story doesn't go on until we beat it. So it when you're making your character, when I was making this character, I should have thought about how people like to fight things. I like to fight things too, but for whatever reason, not for this character. And I should have made my character a little bit better with combat and not so focused on what I was thinking about.
Yeah, like maybe give him like firebolt, like one attack.
Yeah, or just mix it around, like make him illusion, but also give him what's necessary to be a good team member. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's just an example. So when you're making your character and you don't want to make it bad, there is no bad in terms of what you pick. It's just you need to make sure it doesn't take away from the fun of others. So in order to do that, think about them when you're making it, and how would it add to the fun as opposed to take away from other people's time.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I had one of those characters. It was kind of like the same thing, but instead of illusion, it was traps. I did like the Predator.
Traps are tough.
Yeah, the Predator one. Like I kind of would just set traps, and everyone's like, "Can we go in?" I'm like, "No." And I would kill everyone with the traps, and we would just steamroll through like a dungeon. Like we didn't really have to fight anything because of like traps were like actually kind of overpowered if you play it. Like I was an artificer, so you got all this like little magic items, and you can like magic traps and like then just kill them.
Yeah,
you know.
And those are kind of things you should think about. Yeah, you know what I mean, it's not just about your character. Like if your character is setting traps or setting illusions completely makes fighting not happen, well, no, people aren't gonna like that. You know what I mean? So don't do it. It can happen sometimes, but don't make your character to do it every time. You know what I mean?
Right, yeah.
That's being uncompromising and relies on a one note, right? So that's two of the things I mentioned. Okay, well, that's all I got for DM question of the week.
Yeah, that's all I have.